Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lynn Loves You. I'm your host, Lynn Broughton, and I'm so grateful you've joined me today. Speaking of gratitude, that's the subject of today's video. Gratitude for the kindness and goodness others have shown us in our lives, especially when we needed it the most. Now, I asked for your stories and you delivered, so thank you so much. I'm going to read all of I'm going to call them letters because I'm old-fashioned that way. I'm going to read all of the letters that were sent me. A few things before I get started. First, I did have to edit a few of them down just for the sake of time, but the essence and the spirit of them is still there. Second, I'm still very low tech here at Lynn Loves You, so obviously I don't have a teleprompter. What I do have are index cards, because again, I'm very old-fashioned. So I probably won't be making any eye contact at all while I'm reading your letters. And I apologize for being wooden and even robotic at times. Thank you so much for understanding. And also one other thing, or two other things really. These index cards sometimes stick together. So there are going to be points, perhaps, I hope not, but perhaps, when I'm kind of spending a minute trying to separate them out. I actually tried bending them and everything like that. And that helped, but it didn't fix the problem completely. So if that happens, please bear with me and I will try not to curse. I'm not going to curse, I promise. One last thing before I start. I want to congratulate my niece, Lindsay, for graduating from nursing school last week. And she did this raising 3 children. Now, she had help from her husband, but again, she's raising 3 children while she finished nursing school. And she's also a full-time caregiver. So she's Superwoman as far as I'm concerned. So Lindsay, I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. But I've always loved you so much, and I've always been so proud of you. So, nurse or no nurse, always. But way to go. So, getting started. I'm going to begin with my friends. All of the letters are from people from Twitter, by the way. First, I will begin with my friend Elizabeth from England, as Casey Kasem used to say. And she writes, 5.5 years ago, I told my work colleagues I had breast cancer. One girl just came over and she held me and gave me the biggest hug. And that hug said more and did more for me than any words possibly could. And how very sweet, Elizabeth. And I hope you're well now. Next, we have Andrea. My nurses. I have had breast cancer with 5 tumors, Crohn's disease, and 3 resections. I've spent many days in the hospital. The nurses were amazing every day. Nurses often are. Just like Lindsay. I swear I won't mention it again, but I'm so proud. So the nurses were amazing every day. And just a kind word makes such a difference when you are not in control, and that's the truth. That's one of the worst feelings, is feeling like you have no control of your situation. It makes you feel helpless. So when someone can restore just a little bit of a sense of power to your situation, it's very therapeutic and very, very helpful, and very much like nurses. So next we go to, just one second, my buddy Kai. Kai writes, I'll begin by saying that I had a tragic accident when I was in elementary school. A kid at recess jumped from the top of a swirly slide and landed on my face. Oh, goodness. I had a dislocated arm and a fractured face. I'm so sorry, Kai. I know that must have just been so painful. I remember waking from the impact and seeing all of the kids from recess surrounding me and all watching me, but only one came to my rescue, and that was Carrie. Carrie's parents were super racist, so they would never let us play together. Still, she came and she picked me up and she carried me to the nurse's office, and she never hated me, but she cared about me. And it shows that you can be raised by miserable people and still be kind. So yes, kindness exists. And everyone remember, we all live under the same sky. That's very true, Kai. And a beautiful sentiment at the end of your letter. Just gorgeous. So next, Evelyn wrote in, and she says, my husband died from cancer in 2009. I'm so sorry, Evelyn. And although my kid moved in with me, I was still afraid of being alone. It's natural. I met a nice man online, a totally platonic relationship, and he's been financially supporting me ever since. And he also supports 2 women who live in Ukraine. What a prince he is. Absolutely. And good for you, Evelyn. You know, financial insecurity and worry is something so many of us go through. And I'm so glad that you don't have to anymore, thanks to this gentleman. Now we go to Mary. And Mary writes, this happened in the late 60s or early 70s. One of my brothers was stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. He and his wife had just had their first child, in December, and this is when this event occurred. My brother's next stop from Fort Bragg would be to Cambodia. So 2 of my other brothers and I just had the idea to travel from Michigan to North Carolina to see him, his wife, and our first ever nephew. Well, yeah. Stupidly, we hopped into my brother's old Opel Kadett without benefit of a tune-up. And then we set out on our adventure. Seeing our nephew was well worth the trip. Never before had a more beautiful child been born. And to be with his parents at such a time in their lives was meaningful to all 3 of us. On New Year's Eve, we set out early on our trip back home. We had made it quite a ways into the journey when the car broke down. It was fixable, and the 3 of us pooled all of our money to fix it. And then we were out on our way again, this time with no money. That's scary. It was evening in Ohio when the car quit again. Uh-oh. We were set to walk to the next town when a little man pulled up beside us and offered to push our car with his into that town, which he did. And he pushed it into the parking lot of a gas station where they made auto repairs. That's awesome. He then offered that we could spend the night at his place and he'd bring us back to town in the morning. I told my brothers yes. I was freezing, and I said I didn't care if he killed us, it would be better than freezing to death. His apartment was on the top of an old disused church. He was drunk and he was lonely, and he was so glad to have our company for the night too. And that's so sweet. The next morning, he took us to the Catholic Charities, and they gave us a voucher for food, one for the car repairs, and another to fill our gas tank. We didn't end up needing any of them. None of us were hungry. The car repair was a very simple fix, and we had plenty of gas in the tank. We were really grateful for the people of the town and the people at the gas station, because it was New Year's Day and they didn't make us wait till the 2nd to get the car fixed. They just freely gave us help, and we were so grateful for it. When we got home, we sent money to the Catholic Charities and to our little drunken angel, who shared what he had with strangers. You know, that could choke me up. It really could. What a sweet man he was, Mary. Now, we're going to talk to my buddy Mac. And he writes, in the mid-'80s, we've got card stickage. I'm going to start over with Mac once I get this separated. Here we go. So we're going to go with Mac now. And Mac writes, in the mid-'80s, my sponsor from AA let me stay in a room in his house. A totally purple room, from the walls to the carpet to the drapes. Was it Prince? Were you staying with Prince, Mac? It was the mid-'80s. I think that was kind of the peak of his career. Would have been an interesting time to live with him. I was working very hard, and so was he, as a forklift operator. So no, not Prince, alas. And still, he managed to make dinner for me and another gentleman who was also using a room in his house. He also had always had time for me to talk to him. I was going through so much of the time. I was 35. I had recently lost everything and I was broke. So he let me use that room for free and also have free access to his telephone. Well, that was very nice of him. Even though he wasn't Prince, he was still a prince, right, Mac? So I saved this final letter for the end. It's from my friend Gary, and I'm the subject of it. And so this video is not about me, and I didn't want it to be about me. So for the sake of perspective, I put this for the last of the letters. I really do appreciate what he wrote about me, though. I don't think, I'm not sure that I'm really worthy of all that praise, but I'll take it. I'll take every bit of it. I certainly will. I certainly will, Gary. Give me just a moment here. I have to arrange my cards again. Okay. Now, I do want to mention that I did edit Gary's letter down considerably just for the sake of time. But I encourage everyone who watches this video, go to the video dated July 18, 2022. Go to the pinned comments and read his entire entry. Not for what he wrote about me at all, but for his own personal story. Gary has endured a lot, and he endures a lot physically too. And he overcomes. He endures and he overcomes. And in spite of all of the hardships, especially physically, Gary continues to sparkle and shine and to inspire. He inspires me. Let him inspire you. So here we go. Here is Gary. I joined Twitter in February of 2022 because I could no longer be silent while history repeated itself or say nothing in response to the vilification spewing from number 45's mouth. Not a political channel here. I never want to alienate anyone, no matter what spectrum you're on. But I would wager almost my entire savings that almost my entire demographic, or maybe all of it, swings very far to the left. So I don't think anybody's going to be embarrassed. Not embarrassed. I don't think anybody's going to be offended is what I should say. So back to Gary. If I could find it. Here we go. Here we go. I had really no outlet to vent. All of my family just encouraged me to calm down or to stop reading or watching the news because everything was out of my control. So I went to Twitter as an outlet to vent. I never expected to make connections on Twitter, although every now and again, like-minded individuals would sympathize. Just 1 second. I lost my spot. I am embarrassed now, but I'll find it. Just 1 second. So I've rehearsed this quite a bit. I can probably wing it without the notes. I'm so sorry, Gary. So in essence, what Gary said was that he didn't expect to make friends or make any real emotional connections on Twitter. And then he writes, well, let's see. I never expected to engage with others, but amazingly, I had an encounter with an incredible man who literally changed my life. Thank you, my sweet cheeks. How sweet of you, Gary. To this day, I don't think you realize. I'm finally finding my way here. I'm not sure that you fully understand the transformation that began due to the loving, caring, compassionate reach of your daily tweets. How very kind of you, Gary. Thank you so much. But he's not finished. He's not finished, folks. Just 1 second. His sweetness continues. Here is how you really changed my life, Lynn. 22 years ago, I had to leave a job that I left a job that I had to return to school to train for. It was April of 94, just 2 months after losing my mother. Just 2 months after losing my mother to cancer. I worked in a hospital. I got a job at a hospital in downtown Vancouver, and I loved my job and was very proud of the work I did there, such as preparing chemotherapy syringes, IVs, etc. And I felt that by the work I was doing, I might be sparing somebody else's mother from that fate. How very kind and compassionate and empathetic of you, Gary. Over time, though, it became very laborious to finish my shifts. I began to I was in extreme physical pain and extreme fatigue every day. Sometimes it was even sometimes I wasn't sure that I could make the 15-minute walk from the hospital back home. Eventually, after a very long process, I was diagnosed with extremely severe fibromyalgia. I am so sorry. One of the counselors and personnel finally talked me into going on long-term disability. I really fought against that because I loved my job so much and I just couldn't imagine not working. My husband Keith and I had made a lot of very strong friendships through work, and we spent lots and lots and lots of time over the years with these great friends of ours. Wonderful, wonderful friends who promised me after I did have to leave work permanently that they would pop by and that they would call, and none of them ever did. I feel I can kind of understand it, though. Fibromyalgia, unlike a broken leg, is really invisible. And so nobody really can see or understand what I'm going through. And they really don't know what to say. But the problem was, still, I lost all of my friends. And I missed out on many, many family events due to the fibromyalgia too. Events I looked so forward to attending, and I would have myself ready with one foot out the door, and then I would have to tell Keith to just go without me. I'm so sorry, Gary. I was put on practically every pain medicine out there, and in doses that would drop an elephant too. That's a lot. Finally, I became more and more and more isolated. Just 1 second. My notes are a little bit out of sequence here. Became more and more isolated. Lynn, this is where you really helped me. You introduced me to some of the most wonderful friends on Twitter that I never imagined existed. Great people whom I've never met and may never meet, but have come to really care about. And I am proud to know and really, really love. Mr. Lynn Broughton, I will love you for the rest of my life. And Gary, I will love you. Gare Bear, I will love you for the rest of mine. So very much. And thank you so much for being so kind to me in return. Knowing you and being your friend has been a pleasure and an honor. So thank you. Again, everyone, I encourage you to go to the video dated July 18, 2022 to get his entire story and a much more concise version of it that doesn't involve depending on me reading from cue cards. Again, thank you, Gary. And thank you to everybody who wrote in with your testimonies and your anecdotes. I will be doing many versions of this type of video for the entire run of Lynn Loves You, which I hope will be for the next several decades. And so if you haven't sent a correspondence in yet, please do. If you already have, send something else. Please don't think that your story is insignificant and that nobody will be touched by it, because they will. Again, we want to remind everyone watching that humankind is still good, because it is. And on the opposite end of things, I will be making many videos discussing the times that you were good to someone, you were kind to someone, you helped someone, you saved someone. Please do not be too embarrassed or too shy or too humble to receive the praise you deserve for being good to your fellow individual, your neighbor, your friend, even a stranger. So send those letters to me too. I'd like to get a video about that up in about a month. So before I close today, I want to remind you all of 3 big truths. First is that you are a very important person to a whole lot of people. And you matter a whole lot to a whole lot of people. Most importantly, though, you are very well loved by a whole lot of people. A whole lot of people. Please be one of them. Begin to know these things in your mind and feel them in your heart and believe them in your soul, so that when you look in the mirror, you see the great, big, gorgeous giant everyone else sees when they look at you. And allow yourself to be filled with an enormous amount of wonderful, well-deserved self-confidence that helps you carry yourself like that great, big, gorgeous giant that you are. Now, I'm not talking about arrogance or conceit. Absolutely not. You would never be that way. I'm talking about wonderful, well-deserved self-confidence that everyone needs and you have coming, because you're terrific. Now, I need to ask 3 things of you. First, please like this video. Every time one of my videos is liked, I get a dose of self-confidence that I need. And the likes make the videos much more visible to far more people. And I want everybody to watch my videos. Oh, that's reasonable. That's realistic, right? No. No, it's not, of course. But they can be seen by a whole lot of people, and I do want that. So next, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to Lynn Loves You. Be my subscriber number 132. In my last video, I mentioned that my current goal is 200 subscribers. Then on down the line to 1,000 subscribers so that I can be monetized. And then way beyond that. I need you to make this happen. I can't do it by myself, and I wouldn't want to even if I could. So everyone watching, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so right now. Thank you. Now, one more thing, please follow me on Twitter. My handle is LynnBroughton4. That's LYNN, BROUGHTON, and the number 4. And I promise to put a great big smile on your face every single day with my goofy, sugary, sweet tweets that are basically extensions of me, because I am quite goofy and I am very sugary sweet. A lot of people love me that way. Some might think I'm too much. Sometimes I think I'm too much. And that may be the case, but regardless, that's just me, and I'm not trying to change. So until next time, this has been Lynn Loves You, and I'm your host, Lynn Broughton, and I love you, and I'm grateful for you too. Thank you for watching.